You are awesome. How to navigate change, wrestle with failure, and live an intentional life by Neil Pasricha. Hi everyone. Today I am going to review the book, You Are Awesome. How to Navigate Change, Wrestle with Failure, and Live an Intentional Life by Neil Pasricha. An ellipsis opens up possibilities. The ellipsis was first used in a 1588 English translation of a Roman play. Adding those dots of punctuation to show a gap in a sentence can mark the transition from an absolute finality into a future option. An ellipsis also means an additional new challenge, which you may want to end with a period. Letting your process of transition continue, however, allows you to keep fighting, working, trying. A daughter of East Asian parents in Kenya used this as a mantra. In just a short time, she found herself in London, then married off to a man she'd met once and, ultimately, living in a Toronto suburb. She held to the idea that she didn't know her new culture, yet. Because she viewed changes as beginnings instead of endings, she could remain stronger internally. There is magic in doing things simply. In doing things easily. An MIT study found that even the hint of having an opportunity or door close makes that opportunity more attractive. Without being aware of it, you desire to have as many open options as possible for as long as you can. To do this takes effort to strive. See your plans as using an ellipsis instead of a period. You limit yourself by stating absolutes in your everyday life. Usually the comments are negative. You may mourn not having a relationship, saying you can't meet anyone. Open up doors and realize you haven't met anyone yet. This three-letter word yields tremendous power. People aren't focused on you, really. The study found that the group consistently amplified how much detail the observers noticed. The researchers concluded that this self-created fear of judgment plays a part in anxiety. While you think you are the focus of others, you're not. In 2016, a psychological bulletin study reported that the ideal of perfectionism is gaining traction in current younger generations. The goal of perfection combined with the idea that everyone is observing your failure is a dangerously powerful combination. We take tiny strings of trouble and extrapolate them into huge problems with our entire identities always on the line. The reality is that people are really too self-involved to notice you. In addition, getting fired doesn't lead to being homeless. The first failure you have, whether a job or relationship, is hard, but you become more resilient with more experience. If reality shows there isn't a spotlight focused on you for all the world to see, how can you change your perception? First, realize how instinctive and self-centered it is to blame yourself. You need to separate yourself from the failure. While it may be next to you, it doesn't define you. When you can move the focus away from yourself, you can continue to learn and grow. You can't see the future, but continue moving forward. If your marriage ends in divorce, add a ... and realize that you're not the center of everyone's world. See your failure as one step on your life path. A future path that you can't know yet. You can look behind you at experiences, like a staircase of steps and actions, but not your next ones. If you're doing well, this might be positive reinforcement. If, however, you've just lost a job or gone through a divorce, the future may seem bleak. In short, people believe in the worst-case scenario, that if life is bad now, it will continue to be. But, if you see the setback as a step on the invisible staircase of your future, you can realize that although you can't see how you will change, you will. You have to trust enough to take the next step up the stairs. Real growth, real evolution, comes from taking what came before and integrating it into a greater whole. One divorced man, alone in a 500-square-foot apartment, started the blog, 1000 Awesome Things. His initially snarky commentary moved to reflections on gratitude for green traffic lights when late. It helped him make the transition to a life that includes a wife and son. Changing your perspective changes the stories you tell yourself. Sometimes you hit rock bottom, and although you try to climb out, You slip back down. You might feel shame. Psychoanalyst Carl Jung called it the swamplands of the soul, encompassing the multitude of feelings connected to shame. While dictionary definitions involve others shaming you, research reveals that shame involves how you view yourself. If you have a strong sense of self, your focus isn't on how others see you to begin with. When interviewed, author Seth Godin relayed how the Book of Est made him realize he was in charge of stories he told himself about the world. He learned to change them to be happier. If failing a test leaves you devastated, listen to the stories you attach to it. Instead of going to the worst-case scenario, tilt the lens a bit. It's not easy to do this, but you can learn. When refining your focus, consider if you will care about the issue when you're dying, if you can change your circumstances, or if the problem is merely a narrative you are reciting to yourself. We take what's invisible to others and shine spotlights on it inside our own minds. An article on deathbed regrets doesn't mention any failed tests. These regrets usually concern larger, lifetime issues. If you carry shame from a childhood event, explore it with a therapist or talk to your parents directly. Some issues you cannot change. What you can do is change the story that repeats in your head about the issue. Determining what your stories are requires digging through layers of tales to find the seed of truth. From there, you can view the tales you've connected to it. You may not be aware of how you've germinated the seed with your stories. Failing a science test is the fact. Failing your parents is the story. Only you can change the stories you tell yourself. Learn from your losses, and celebrate your growth. Losing can hurt, but it means you're moving forward. If your ambitions exceed abilities, that's a good sign. You may fail, but on the way you'll be learning and creating stronger resilience muscles. After 12 years and 7 attempts, an author finally created a successful website. It won numerous awards, more than 50 million readers, and led to a career as a writer and a lecturer on intentional living. Baseball's Cy Young and Nolan Ryan, respectively, had the most wins and strikeouts. They also had the most losses and walks. Their records reflect the significant amount of time they played. Commencement speeches extol you to do what you love. The added phrase should be only if you love it enough to deal with the frustrations and work involved. If you want another job, then be ready to deal with the rejection of not getting most of them. To strengthen your resilience, expose yourself to new experiences where you might not feel comfortable. Go to an unknown author's reading or accept a party invitation from someone you barely know. You may feel you've wasted your time, but you may meet new people who ignite your passions. Moving through failures is the real success. Create a failure budget of $20 to try oysters or $5,000 to finance a new podcast. Your motto should be, you win some, you learn some. It's also important to give yourself credit for your failures. Instead of hiding them, realize what they taught you. Write down your successes and losses, but be kind to yourself. Failure humanizes people. You will trust someone more if you know his failures. If he is unaware of his failures or pretends he doesn't have any, watch out. Create a way to externalize your concerns. In our loud and chaotic world, we need a place to let our thoughts clarify, congeal, and then fall right out of us. A research study, The Benefits of Frequent Positive Affect. Does Happiness Lead to Success? Found that beginning your day with positivity provides significant increases in productivity, sales, and creativity. Another study showed that writing down 5 specific things you're grateful for each week makes you happier and healthier within 10 weeks. The last prompt focuses on your plan for what you will accomplish that day. This cuts down on decision fatigue, due to energy used by the complex, decision-making part of the brain. Don't fight with the pack, find your own way. Instead of following the pack to compete for a limited number of jobs, find another way. While successful companies recruit heavily at Harvard Business School, a former dean told a student seeking opportunity to look at bankrupt companies, who didn't wine and dine the students. When the graduate began working at Walmart, he found that his confidence increased because the company valued him. Regardless of age, socioeconomic background, nationality, or cultural upbringing, when you're in a small pond, your opinion of yourself goes up. A series of studies found that your self-regard increases when you're in a smaller pond. The positive self-worth you feel will continue for 10 years after you leave that pond. This can come with risks of abusing your power if you're not self-aware. The goal is to give yourself a chance to grow in a more nurturing environment. Productivity can impede obtaining your goals. A 2015 McKinsey & Company white paper reported that today's employee produces 2.4 times more than in 1964. Everyone loves to be productive. It feels good. The downside, according to New Yorker writer Alexandra Schwartz, is that productivity is improving ourselves to death. Thus, says author Barry Schwartz, Americans now have more freedom of choice, but they don't benefit from it psychologically. Author T. Wu adds that if the reason for technology is to allow people to pursue their personal goals, it's causing the opposite effect. You may do more work in a day than your ancestors did in a month, but you also have a harder time relaxing and having fun. You may not spend the time to make sure you're taking the path you want to take. In the happiness equation, Pasricha splits a 168-hour week into 3 buckets. One 56-hour bucket is for work, one for sleep and one for fun. The first 2 enable the third. If your hobby of writing is in the third bucket, but you also want to spend time with your family, something has to change. 2 questions can help you make this decision. First, ask if you'd regret not making the change. In this case, the options were climbing a corporate ladder or being an author and speaker. The second question is what you will do if you fail. Returning the corporate climb was the author's answer. Ironically, he wrote less during his first year of his new career than he had before. Instead of idyllic, tranquil writing time, he found his days interrupted by phone calls, messages, meetings and interviews. His solution was to carve out a day per week that was untouchable. Although that day can move within a work week, he never canceled it. During these uninterrupted days, he produces 5,000 words, 10 times more than in a normal day. The sanctity of the time allows him to concentrate more deeply on his work. Many people object to cutting their technical tether. Initially, the author's wife had concerns that she wouldn't be able to reach him in an emergency. He agreed to check his phone at lunch and found a barrage of buzzing alerts from dozens of texts, emails and feeds. There were no emergencies. Now he just tells her where he is working if she needs him. We have to learn to turn down the noise and find little ponds of tranquility to help us reflect and make sure we're going the right way. If you're an ER doctor or a CEO's assistant, someone may need to reach you. You may not be able to take an entire day tech-free, but you could do an untouchable lunch. Take the time to walk alone without your phone instead of eating with everyone in the cafeteria. A third resistance is that even if you can take the time to unplug, people on your team have difficulty doing it. A study conducted by the author in Harvard Business Review detailed the results of mandatory vacations. Employees lost vacation days if they contacted the office during their time off. However you achieve it, it is possible and important. Believe in your choices and move forward. The core ingredient to resilience is always continuing to move forward. Try to keep decisions simple. Harvard professor Daniel Gilbert finds that when you're making decisions, if you think you don't have a choice, you believe you've made a better decision. When you do have a choice, a tremendous amount of second-guessing occurs. If you're stuck between 2 good options, just chose one. You can say that you had no choice. Also realize that conversations aren't win-lose situations. If someone doesn't understand what you're saying, change how you're explaining it. It's your responsibility to have them understand you, not the other way around. That is the crux of empathy. Takeaways. An ellipsis opens up possibilities. People aren't focused on you, really. You can't see the future, but continue moving forward. Changing your perspective changes the stories you tell yourself. Learn from your losses, and celebrate your growth. Create a way to externalize your concerns. Don't fight with the pack, find your own way. Productivity can impede obtaining your goals. Believe in your choices and move forward. Please like, share and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.